Hey everyone, welcome into episode 1 of Broville FunFair. This is a new series on my channel that's inspired mainly by my childhood. I grew up in a small town, and every single year we had one of those traveling carnivals roll through town. And it was something that everyone looked forward to. You know, everyone in town would go to it. You know, as a kid, it was incredible. I thought it was like the coolest thing ever. Looking back on it as an adult, though, it's like you realize like how jank it was, and you know, as most carnivals are. But anyway, I really wanted to, I've kind of had this idea for a while, and I really wanted to start on it once the vintage pack came out. So I've been working on this for a few weeks now. I haven't had as much time as I would have liked to pour into it, but I figured it would be a good side project, you know, while I'm the weeks that I'm not working on Jubilee Gardens. And I probably shouldn't have two projects, considering we're not getting episodes of Jubilee Gardens out very quickly. But it's just something, a little side project. Like I said, I've wanted to do it for a while, and I'm really excited about what I've already gotten done so far. So some of you may recognize this structure. That's a gazebo that I created for No Name Landia and the Bro Coaster series. And so that also is kind of one of the reasons for the name of the series, the Broville, is just kind of paying homage to the Bro Nation Discord, and that community there. I'm going to try to put in quite a few sort of Easter eggs that pay homage to some of the folks there as well. So anyway, I kind of have laid down some groundwork here so far. I wanted there to be this little park area, and what I'm going to do is, in this field here, I'm going to have like a open air craft fair. That was something that they always had in addition to the carnival itself, was a craft fair. And you know, it's like, if you're not familiar with those types of things, usually it's pretty strange, some of the stuff that's, you know, featured. Like, you get people that are selling anything from like dream catchers to turquoise jewelry to like wooden shields and swords for kids, just all kinds of random stuff. So I'm gonna make that here. I've got a couple ideas for how I can hide some of those new shops in this area so that peeps actually will walk in here, and you'll kind of see that as I progress forward here. But one of the most important aspects of setting the stage for this is making sure that I create the town correctly. So initially I was going to sort of work on this Main Street area over here, and you can see I've already kind of laid out the park, or not the park, the carnival area. I'm going to tweak that a little bit. I want to make sure I get a coaster in there. So I've seen some videos of traveling carnivals that have like a wild mouse coaster. So I'm going to try to build one of those to a smaller scale and put it over in this area. But initially I was going to start on the Main Street, and I decided that I actually needed to start in this area because I wanted to hide some spawn points. So I've got one in this gas station over here, and then one in this McDonald's that I've sort of started working on over here. I'm going to also probably have one on this side, but the reason for starting over here and in particular putting the spawn points over here is the way that I've laid out the paths is there's only really one way for the peeps to get in, and I want it to look like they're using the whole street once they get up across this road here. So that was the first step, just sort of laying that out, and then working on the buildings. And so I'm going to take a quick break here and get some more progress done, and then I'll bring you guys back on. Okay, so change the time of day a little bit. I was having trouble with the lighting on what I was working on, but before I really get heavy into the details, I wanted to lay out these buildings and just make sure that the scale of this area was going to work out for me. So I've also kind of already done that here as well, with just some facades that will represent elements of the main street. And then you can see with the cars and stuff too, I've used those as spacing for the scale of the roads. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with how this is coming along. This is just going to be like an older strip mall. Probably would have been built in like the early 80s. And it's still there in my town today. So this is going to be an essential point of this area and really setting the stage, because the vast majority of the peeps will sort of come on these sidewalks here and then spill out onto this main street, which will be closed off. So yeah, that's what I've gotten done. I'm going to do a little more and bring you back in. Okay, so made some more progress here on this strip mall. And so one thing I also was like crucial to my childhood is this particular store was a Baskin Robbins, and I remember going there several times as a kid, not just when the carnival was in town, but anytime we were sort of in this area, we would hit up this Baskin Robbins. So I wanted to include that. I've tried making a custom sign. I don't know how you people have the patience for that. Like you can see, I tried starting to use some art shapes to fill that out, but I just don't think I have it in me to do that, especially with the level of detail I'm going to try to capture everywhere else. So unfortunately, we might have to just work with the in-game signs. Although I think the text, I think this is the Rancher text. I think it actually does a pretty good job of selling the Baskin Robbins sign. So yeah, I've just been sort of fleshing this out, making sure the scale works. I also took some time to add this to the main street. The town that I grew up in has something like this that's just sort of a feature with some more trees that overhang. Also spent some time working on these street lamps. I'm really happy with how those turned out. They're really simple. They're just some of that icing and then some of those lights that came with the spooky pack. Yeah, and then haven't really worked on much more detail over here. Again, I don't really want to spend a lot of time fully detailing stuff until I'm absolutely sure that the scale is correct and that I want to use the building itself. So anyway, gonna work a little bit more and I'll bring you guys back. Okay, slowly but surely coming along. I got pretty detailed in this interior and I'm really happy with how it turned out. I wasn't going to do like any sort of custom Photoshop work, so thankfully I found some Baskin Robbins menus that I could throw up here. Just use that technique where you make a staff person stagnant to put in there, and then I've got the ice cream flavors that they can scoop up behind the counter here. And then I just tucked I'm going to try to hide this Cosmic Cow logo somehow, but tuck this in here so that the peeps will actually come in and use the Baskin Robbins. And then as I was looking at the interiors of these, so I looked at a bunch of photos. They have these really cool, most of them do, have these really cool sort of mural artwork advertisements on the wall with different flavors that they offer. And there's a couple of Easter eggs in there if you can spot them out. So one's obvious, but I'm going to try to hide as many things like that as I can in this build. And then these benches, I actually had already made these for Jubilee Gardens. In the last episode that I was building in, I made them for one of the little restaurant stalls. So I just copied those and reused them, recolored them, and I think they really help sell the vibe of the Baskin Robbins here. So really happy with how this looks. I added some flowers and stuff in the front here as a planter. One thing that I struggle with in Planet Coaster is a lot of times I get caught in the trap of trying to make things look too nice or too perfect, and then it ends up being not realistic. And so I tried to, when I first made these planters, they were like perfect across, and I went in and deleted different plants, different flowers. And then I dulled the colors a little bit, so hopefully those come across as realistic. But landscaping is definitely not my strong suit in this game, but I think that looks nice, and I think it looks realistic. Also, just trying to get a pretty realistic canopy. I want to use as much of the trees that are in the game as possible, just to provide variety. And so you'll see I've got some of the ash trees there. These are the Topico, I think is what they're called, the Marula, and then the Brazil nut trees. So yeah, just still more detailing. Haven't really done much more to these buildings, and I have added parking lines as in here. These will probably change. I was looking at Google Earth images, and these are more at a diagonal, which would make sense because this is going to be a pretty narrow drive. So these would have to be diagonal spaces. And then on the sign front, so Uakins on the Bronation Discord, he's the same one who did the custom box letters for Mike Sheets' project, Paradise Pier. He gave the Baskin Robbins logo a shot. Unfortunately, these ones are a little too big. They stick out underneath and they get blocked off by this area here. So I think he's going to give them another go and see if he can make them smaller. But for now, sticking with these here. And then one thing I did, I put in these are, in real life, these are normally like concrete molds that are set there so that cars don't pull too far forward. But if you look at a lot of parking lots that have these, like without fail, people have hit these and knocked them off there. Usually they're like hammered into the ground with some rebar. And but without fail, people inevitably like jack them up and hit them with their cars. So tried to add some variety there to make it look a little more realistic. And let's see, I've also done some stuff with the spacing and trying to figure out the queues and the path work here. I really wish that these natural paths didn't have these little nubs, but I've laid everything out in a way that I think I'm going to be able to hide a substantial amount of them with just clutter. And then every like state fair or fun fair that, you know, anyone's ever been to, you know, there's like tons of games to play. There's tons of like junk food shacks and trailers and things like that. So I think by adding all of that kind of stuff, I'll be able to hide a lot of them. The reason for the natural paths is that the town I grew up in, where they actually put the rides and stuff, was in an empty field that hadn't been developed yet. And so it just really added to the jank of it all. Like and I'm going to paint the ground, so it won't be this just flat color, but I'm going to add textures to it and stuff like that. But it was like a dirt field that had been worn down over the course of the week, and there's like cables running everywhere. So that's the vibe I'm going to go for. I'm going to try to do it. If it ends up being the case where I can't hide these nubs, I'll probably just use some of the normal path and then cover this entire area with just one slab, like one of the flat roof pieces, or some of those some of the walls from the adventure pack make really good concrete as well. So we'll see. Also, if you're on the Bronation Discord, you've probably already seen these, but these ridiculous trucks were made by Wings and Strings. He is like a parts master. I have no idea how he like thinks to use pieces the way he does, but like, for example, these gas canisters on the side of this truck are adventure pieces that have been colored. They're the gold pieces that he colored silver. I mean, it's just ridiculous. So part of this build is we're going to have, anytime a fun fair or carnival rolls into town, they always have tons of trucks that actually they pack these rides up on. So I'm going to have sort of a little carny village somewhere in here with like these trucks and RV campers and things like that, where the carnies would stay at the end of the day. So thank you, Wings and Strings, for this incredible stuff. I think these are his poles as well, his power lines as well. So anyway, these are going to play a huge role. I've also got plans to run a train through town, and that's one of his incredible train engines. So yeah, just this is going to be kind of like half carnival, half town, you know, kind of like a diorama almost. But yeah, we'll have a little carny village over here somewhere. So if you've got suggestions on how to hide these things, let me know in the comments. I'd love some feedback. But I think I've got some, like I said, I've got some ideas, and I think I'll be able to hide most of them where it'll just feel like a big open field and you don't notice the path lines there. Yeah, so I'm going to keep, I think, focusing. I really want to get this area tidied up before I move towards the rest of the main street. I probably won't detail all of it completely, but yeah, I'm going to try to stick in one area and not get too sidetracked. So I'll do a little bit more work and bring you guys back in. All right, we have peeps in the park now. I opened up the park just to make sure that my paths were working correctly, which you can see some people leaving the park through the McDonald's here, which I'm really happy with how this turned out to actually go through the door. I'm not going to get super detailed on the interior of this just because, you know, for the most part, it's not a huge feature of the town, but I wanted to, especially at nighttime, you know, you see into the little play area here, and from here into the dining room. But yeah, I still need to finish off the roof and add more of these details on the other side there. But I went ahead and finished off the strip mall and added a couple of additional shops, which I'm still working on tweaking here a little bit. But didn't want to do interiors for all of these. That would be a little bit too much work, especially because I'm planning on doing a couple more interiors on some of the more crucial buildings on the main street. But you know, any town you go to, any smaller town, they always have like the most random things inside of these strip malls. So I just kind of wanted to emulate that. Also, Uikins came through. He was able to scale down the Baskin-Robbins logo so that it fits. It looks amazing. I can't believe he was able to do it. But unfortunately, I can only use it right here because if I move it over here, the top pieces stick out above this roof. But overall, I think it's nice to have at least one that is completely legit and you know, really sells the idea that it's, you know, a Baskin-Robbins. So the peeps seem to like it. Maybe that's because it's the only store that's open in the park right now. But I really like how they use this. You know, everything for the most part is set up where they can't walk through planters and they actually have to use the paths the way that they look. And one thing I forgot to mention early on is you'll notice I slightly elevated this area off the street. So it's kind of hard to tell. You can kind of see it there. So some peeps will sort of clip through on this part if they're walking on it. But if they're walking up here, whoa, crotch shot. If they're walking up here, they step perfectly on the sidewalk. And then I wanted to make sure that there was only certain areas where they could move into the street. And the reason being is that I'm trying to get a nice balance between them walking down this street. So like, especially once the main street's done, I've got some ideas of cool stuff to do on the street as well. But I really want it to look like this area is closed off and that peeps are free to sort of walk on the sidewalks, walk in the street. And I want there to be a good mix of them using both. So yeah, I'll get a little bit more work done and bring you guys back. Okay, even more details now. So I've been trying to add variety and detail as much as I can without also driving myself insane. So really, really happy with how this ended up turning out in this drive-through area. So I've got the little intercom, got a menu. I've added a variety of cars now instead of just having those red cars. I wanted to get some more variety in there and tweaked the awnings a little bit. I was starting to look at the reference images and they definitely looks better this way, I think. And then on all of the buildings, I've gone through and added ductwork and more details on the roofs. I think it looks especially good over here on the strip mall. Each unit would probably have its own air conditioning, so just tried to make it look like there's, you know, clutter up here that looks realistic. I'm certainly no expert when it comes to that kind of stuff, but I think it turned out really nice. Same with here. So you've got the air conditioning, the power unit, and even though, you know, if you're walking around in Tegged Cam, you're not going to see any of that stuff, but when you're up flying around, I think it really helps sell the overall vibe. So yeah, gonna keep doing a little more detailing, and then we'll probably wrap up this first episode. Okay, so again, more detailing. I used some of the curbs to block where peeps could go because this is all one swath of path, and they were starting to clip through here because I gave them access to, I connected this path with this path, and same over here, this path with this path. Added a bunch of markings on the road, which that's going to be sort of a tedious process, so that'll be something that just slowly gets added. I'm not going to try to do all of that at once because I'll drive myself crazy. But got some more detailing done on this bank, added some planters on this side, and then sort of fleshed out the parking lot. I still need to add some more plants here, but yeah, really happy with how this is turning out. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do in this area yet. I might try to delete the path and create a trench here, like a drainage ditch here, but I'm not sure if I'll be able to get the path to work again, so we'll see what happens. But anyway, just in theme with adding more details, got an ATM here, was able to get like a teller window, and then I'm not sure about those of you who are from Europe, if you have things like this at banks, but we have these like pneumatic tubes where you put your money in or your checks in, and it goes up into the teller. So that's what those are supposed to represent. And then just added some concrete curb here to separate these two areas. Still need to add some more landscaping there, but gosh, yeah, the more and more details that I add, I just feel better about this project and get more excited about moving forward. I also started working on the craft fair area. So again, blocked out some natural paths. This is going to be a lot easier to hide these little nubs with little pop-up tents and stuff. So I think it's going to look awesome in this area. I also painted the grass a little bit to make it look like it's been walked on all week, and then I've hidden some of these little I can't remember what they're called. What are they? Miniature shops or something like that. Small attractions. Yeah, so I've hidden some small attractions. These will all be inside of tents, but the nice thing is that they're pretty small in stature, so they should be relatively easy to hide, and the peeps use them. So this whole area will be filled with like tents and all that stuff, which is probably what I'll begin working on in the next episode. Right now, these are the only bathrooms in the town, or in the park, if you want to call it that. And the whole purpose of where I position these is I'm trying to draw the peeps to come through here and use the restrooms and stop at all these, so that once I populate it with the craft fair, it'll look convincing. I think that just about does it for episode 1. Yeah, more and more details to come. I can't tell if I am equal parts excited or insane, but yeah, I think I'm a little bit crazy to tackle this, especially the level of detail I'm going for, but I really am really happy with how it looks so far, and again, the more and more details that get added, just the better it looks. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks so much for watching. The next thing that'll probably be on the channel, well, actually not probably, the next thing that will be on the channel is an episode of Jubilee Gardens, and then after that, once I hand the park off to Commando Santa, we'll do episode 2 of Broville FunFair. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a good one.